Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today is November 18th, 2018, and this is the first 2020 presidential election prediction I am doing since the 2018 midterm elections. So things in the news today, if you're watching this a year from now or even a month from now, because a lot can change. Bill Nelson just conceded Florida. Florida goes to the GOP. Republicans have a 52 to 47 majority as of now. A whole list of new candidates came out. This is the new expanding Battleground Map from 270 to win. They did not have this before. This is an entire new thing where you can see states like Texas are now pure toss-ups, whereas the states like Iowa and Ohio and Nevada and Colorado have gone to their respective parties from 2016, and that is very surprising. Most of these are based off the 2018 midterm results. I'm pretty sure you can tell by Nebraska's second being a toss-up, Georgia being a toss-up, Florida being a toss-up, and Ohio and Iowa being more Republican. Colorado, which just went to a Democratic governor by 10%. Nevada, which just retained in the Democratic column by 5% in the Senate race that was supposed to go to the GOP. A lot definitely changed, but these states pretty much have stayed the same in terms of party affiliation, but the margins are much better for whichever party won there back in 2016. So, looking at the list, there is a long list. We see names. Clinton, one that strikes out at us as something that many Democrats are like, no, take her off, but she's on there. A lot of these candidates who have speculated that they may run are now on this list. Bernie Sanders won the poll, which is a poll that I sent out in my community tab where it said, who do you guys think is going to be the nominee for the 2020 presidential election? What was very interesting is that Beto O'Rourke came in third place, Joe Biden came in second place, and Bernie Sanders came in first place at the time that I checked it. It could have changed, but we're going to go with Bernie Sanders because he's the first candidate that really comes to mind when you think 2020 Democrat. Many Democrats are pushing Bernie Sanders to run. Many Democrats are pushing Joe Biden to run. Beto O'Rourke, possibly. He said he wouldn't run, but Hillary Clinton said she wouldn't run in 2016 either, so things definitely can change. In about, 6 months, we'll have a pretty good idea of who is going to run in the presidential election. Hillary Clinton announced in April of 2015. Donald Trump announced in June of 2015 or July. I believe it was June, but it could have been July. But still, around that area, around that time frame is when these candidates start to announce, and especially on the Democratic side. Looking at this amount of candidates, we didn't see this in 2016. We saw 3, then it narrowed down to 2. 3 in meaning candidates that went to the primaries, narrowed down to 2 after the first primary or caucus. But now a lot of these candidates could be going on into maybe the 14th primary before dropping out, possibly even to the convention because they don't want to drop out. And new superdelegate change rule where superdelegates cannot vote in the first ballot, which is around the same exact idea of what's happening. Superdelegates will still get a say if it doesn't go to a clear nominee from the beginning from pledged delegates, but essentially that's what's been happening. These pledged delegates aren't enough to push them over the top. So on the first ballot, superdelegates just vote. So not much changes other than the first ballot has now been moved to the second ballot, but the effect is still the same. The superdelegates still have the same amount of power as they did in 2016. But regardless, enough discussion about that. Let's look at this map and start to analyze it. So the reason why I started off with the expanding Battleground Map is usually I begin by filling in all the toss-ups, filling in all the safe states. States like North Dakota, South Dakota, are already going to be safe Republican states. States like California, Oregon, Washington, are going to be already safe Democratic states. Based off the map from the 2018 midterms combined with the 2016 presidential election, Bernie Sanders gets 218 electoral votes. Donald Trump gets 149. So when you see that 149, you think automatically he may lose. Bernie Sanders is closer to 270 than he is, and looking at this map isn't too good, being this far behind as a Republican incumbent, especially in a number of these states like Texas and Georgia and North Carolina and Arizona, all Republican states, now toss-ups. In fact, Arizona actually possibly could be considered a blue state now after the recent results. But Bernie Sanders had 218 electoral votes. 28 of them are considered toss-ups. So I'm actually going to move some of these 28 of them are considered lean. I'm going to move some of these lean into the more safe column, states like Colorado. I think that one would probably be a lean state for the Democrats. Looking at the state of Nevada, that one possibly could branch over into, this is likely, not lean. Along with Virginia. So all the states that are currently rated as lean for the Democratic Party actually could be likely states. Now, the reasoning behind that is, number one, these Democrats are going to outperform. In Nevada, Democrats are consistently underpolled or undersampled, whatever, underrepresented in these election polls. 2018 Senate, 2018 governor, 2016 presidential, 2016 Senate, all prove this. Democrats, for some reason, are underrepresented in Nevada polling. Dean Heller was supposed to win. Steve Sisolak was supposed to lose. Jackie Rosen was never supposed to win. Same election, by the way. Hillary Clinton was not supposed to win Nevada. Based off the no toss-ups only map, Trump was leading in the state of Nevada. Okay, the Democrats were not supposed to win in any of those couple other races, and then they did. So, again, coming down to it, for some reason, Democrats are underrepresented in Nevada. As for Colorado, plus 10 for the most recent Democratic candidate. A 10% margin. A new article came out saying Colorado is no longer a swing state. And I agree with that. The state of Colorado likely will go in favor of Bernie Sanders by a likely margin. Now, the same argument can be made for states like Iowa and Ohio. These are states that I've had in the Bernie Sanders column before against Donald Trump when his approval rating was absolutely horrible. But looking at them now, they have retained their Republican identity. In the toss-up districts in states like Ohio, they're retained in the GOP column. The governorship, GOP. Senate election went to the Democrats, but it was narrower than before. Iowa was expected to go to the Democrats. Didn't. The only good thing for them there is now that they have the majority in terms of seats from Iowa, but there's only 4 there. So even if the state at large goes in favor of the GOP, it could be that one district that's spoiling the rest of the 3 others for the Democrats. So right now, looking at the state of Iowa and Ohio, I'm going to keep those in the lean GOP column. Again, you could argue that these states could move into the likely column. I'm not saying that's impossible, but right now, looking at those states themselves, they definitely have narrowed down for someone like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders definitely appeals to the white working class a lot better than Hillary Clinton did, and a lot better than some of these candidates were able to. I get it. Looking at Iowa, that one doesn't seem like it's necessarily white working class, but Bernie Sanders definitely was able to appeal to them, number one, in the caucus amongst Democrats, and he also did pretty well against Trump there in terms of opinion polling in 2016. Hillary Clinton did not at all. Everyone knew she was going to lose Iowa. Everyone knew she was going to lose Ohio. That wasn't news to them on election night. What was surprising was the Rust Belt, which is what we're going to turn to next. The Rust Belt right now is actually trending pretty Democratic. Senate race in all 3 of those states went to the Democratic Party. Governorship in all 3 of those states went to the Democratic Party. House elections flips for the Democrats in, I believe, 2 of the states, Michigan and Pennsylvania. And maybe Wisconsin got one, but it was focused on Michigan and Pennsylvania because those had the most. Now, looking at the states themselves, these states should be closer because Trump won them in 2016. Bernie Sanders is a different type of candidate. I definitely see the argument from after 2018 how progressives do phenomenal in the primaries. They get these big upsets and then amounts to nothing in the general when they lose by large margins. Running a progressive in an extremely conservative district expecting to win, sure, you win the Democratic primary. That's amongst Democrats, okay? That's not a general election. So you could argue that, but Bernie Sanders also, there was something a little bit different about him. He's not one of these threw them in as a candidate, as a progressive candidate, slap Justice Democrat on them, and they won a primary. He's been there for a very long time. And yeah, he's also old, but Donald Trump is not too much younger than him. So that argument pretty much gets thrown out the window, but it'll probably still be used by the opposition against Bernie Sanders. But for the Rust Belt itself, the white working class typically votes with their interest. Again, Trump was the first Republican many of those states voted in over 3 decades. And that's very surprising. Pennsylvania should not have gone to the GOP based off Barack Obama. They voted for Obama heavily. Pennsylvania was a safe Obama state in 2008, likely Obama state in 2012. 2016, it should have been a lean Clinton state, at least for her. She was going to, quote-unquote, continue a legacy, very popular amongst Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin voters. Unfortunately for Trump, we didn't see that type of turnout in favor of other Republicans in 2018. So the argument could have been made if these states were a lot closer than they were in the Senate elections, in the governor elections, in a number of these close House races. Right now, these states I'm going to put into the lean Democratic column, which is sort of being generous to the president at this point. We're looking at states that are probably going to move over into the likely column by the end of 2020 if Bernie Sanders does run and he's able to have a pretty smooth primary and lead off into a good general election. As for those other states, though, Texas is probably going to be in the lean column for Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders is not Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke went against a mildly unpopular incumbent. He wasn't necessarily unpopular. He had a positive approval rating, meaning more people approved than disapproved of him. But those people that really had no opinion about him or that maybe even approved of him didn't necessarily have to vote for him. People can still approve of someone and not vote for them because they think they would like someone else better, but they still are okay with what the person in charge is doing. This was Ted Cruz. This is not Donald Trump. But Donald Trump narrowed down this race in 2016. So for the 2020 map, it's probably going to be close. But it's probably not going to be a likely margin for Trump or a lean margin for the Democrats. Texas is probably going to remain in the Democratic column. For Georgia and North Carolina, these two states did very well for Donald Trump in 2016 compared to where they should have been. These states were toss-ups for months. And yes, they were narrower than 2012, and only for the state of Georgia. North Carolina, not so much, but still, they were narrower than where they were before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that Donald Trump did worse. I mean, yes, Mitt Romney did better, but he was a different type of Republican. Donald Trump will likely hold on to these states by the same margins, and yes, they have changing demographics. Georgia cannot be denied after that governorship that just narrowly went to the Republican. Looking at the state of North Carolina, they have a Democratic governor that they elected in 2016. So it's not impossible for Democrats to win here. Bernie Sanders probably is just not the right guy to do it. But for states like New Hampshire, those states are probably going to be likely for Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton was able to win it after being defeated in a number of other states. But 8 years ago, before the 2016 presidential election, you would never imagine the Rust Belt going red and New Hampshire going blue. It just wasn't heard of, especially for someone like Hillary Clinton, especially gets a candidate like Donald Trump. It just wasn't heard of. For the state of Maine itself, I'm going to put that one in the lean Democratic column. I think Bernie Sanders can do pretty well there, being able to appeal to Maine voters. The 2nd district went to the Democrat in 2018. I think with ranked voting, it could help the Democratic Party, especially with Green Party split candidates. That could help the Democratic Party at the end of the day. For Arizona, I'm going to move this one into the pure toss-up column. I'm going to label it gold because I cannot make a clear distinction as to how this state will vote in 2020 after very confusing and very conflicting results from 2016 all the way to 2018. 2 years of difference, but not many demographic changes, but voters definitely have different sentiment. We'll probably see later on leading into the final days of the election. Minnesota, I'm going to give that one to Bernie Sanders. Okay, that one probably going to be in the likely column. Nebraska's 2nd. I'm going to put that one narrowly in the Trump column. Both of those states voting the same way how they did in 2016. Minnesota was closer, but Bernie Sanders, again, making the Rust Belt lean blue, pushes Minnesota into the likely Democratic column. As for the state of Florida, right now, based off the 2018 results, I think Trump could narrowly win there. Unfortunately for Bernie Sanders, he does not do well here in the primaries, which means that, again, he would need an upset like Andrew Gillum, and even with that type of upset, he was not able to win someone like Ron DeSantis. We're looking at a Senate race that just Bill Nelson today conceded, 2 hours ago conceded the Senate race. It was a margin of 0.2%, but still was a win for the GOP nonetheless. And right now, looking at all the rest of the states, Bernie Sanders at 279 electoral votes, Donald Trump at 248, and 11 toss-up electoral votes. 190 in the safe column for the Democrats, 125 in the safe column for Donald Trump. A lot of closer races for the GOP, especially in these states. 123 lean GOP electoral votes. The Democrats only have 47, which means that they can afford to lose some if they're able to make up gains in a number of other states. But again, this is the first election prediction since the 2018 midterms. A lot can change from now. So, just to recap, today is Sunday, November 18th, 2018, and this is the first Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump election prediction since the midterm elections. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.